If you want to watch the movie, feel free to skip ahead to the next time spot. I am just telling you how I came to recut the score of Konrad Elfers to the complete and restored version of Fritz Lang's movie Dr. Mabuse the Gambler, Part 1. When the Friedrich Wilhelm Murnau Stiftung in 2004 published the first complete version of the movie, it came with a score by Aljoscha Zimmermann, which was a brilliant choice, even given that I might have preferred the score of Robert Israel. I think that the Aljoscha Zimmermann score works extremely well. Still, it felt like a letdown to me personally. Why? When I had watched the movie for the first time, it was accompanied by the score of one Konrad Elfers, and its melodies and themes had stuck with me ever since. Konrad Elfers had taken great care to recreate the sound of the 20s, where the film was made and is set. That is something I felt was missing in the Aljoscha Zimmermann score. Zimmermann originally was a ballet correpetitor with a more or less classical training. The sound of the 20s is present in his score too, but it remains to be found rather within the instrumentation in general, and in particular in the choice of percussion instruments. To me, it seemed like they had just bought one wooden block drum and then decided to call it a day. I almost imagined Christopher Walken shouting "more woodblock" from the side, since it is used very prominently throughout the score. Silent movie theoretic Hans Erdmann might have called it an illustrative score, because it is built of patterns being repeated rather than any extensive self-contained pieces of music or melody. For example, the most distinctive and the most repeated theme, the Dr. Mabuse theme, consists not of a self-contained song, but rather a very short 5-note motive that felt to me like it was stolen from Gary Moore's Walking by My Side. It works brilliantly, by the way. Still, once the movie had finished, I could whistle more melodies from Konrad Elfers' score, which I had listened to 20 years ago, than I could from Zimmermann's score, which I had listened to just the night before. Perhaps this wasn't even Zimmermann's fault to begin with. It was just that Konrad Elfers' score was so memorable and good, and all in all, worthy of preservation. So this is what I try to do here, recutting Elfers' score to the original version of the movie. Konrad Elfers' score was written in 1964 to accompany a then new cut of the movie, made and brought to the cinemas again 40 years after its original release in 1922 by the documentary filmmaker Erwin Laiser. Laiser's most famous documentary film is probably Mein Kampf from 1960, about the book and the rise of Adolf Hitler. The moment to release the 40-year-old movie Dr. Mabuse was perfect. Producer Arthur Brauner had just made 6 new films about Dr. Mabuse. The first one, The Million Eyes of Dr. Mabuse, had also been the last picture of Fritz Lang, with Gert Goldfinger Fröbe as Kommissar Jochen Krass, a successor to Otto Wernicke's Kommissar Lohmann from M, and Wolfgang Preis as the spiritual heir of the already deceased Dr. Mabuse. The second Dr. Mabuse film from the 60s, The Return of Dr. Mabuse, was Arthur Brauner's soft reboot of the franchise, probably also the first soft reboot in movie history. Gert Fröbe was now no longer the successor of Kommissar Lohmann, but Kommissar Lohmann himself, and Wolfgang Preis was from now on, and for still 4 movies to follow, the actual and original Dr. Mabuse. By 1964, the once successful series was already running out of steam, and people were ready to go back to the original source. Now, Erwin Laiser could have very easily had its music written by one or any of the composers of Arthur Brauner's Mabuse movies to keep up with the taste of the modern audience. Many scenes were identical anyway. Erwin Laiser chose not to. For the already mentioned return of Dr. Mabuse, Arthur Brauner had his composer Peter Sandloff, a cousin of my old music teacher, so I may be a little biased here. Arthur Brauner had Peter Sandloff even using a popular rock and roll standard as the main title. It was Crossfire by Johnny and the Hurricanes, a young and upcoming rock and roll band who had been sharing the stage in Hamburg with the Beatles. That was a weird choice for the main title of a German krimi, yet it shows how deliberately Arthur Brauner had tried to bring Dr. Mabuse into the present, musically too. Erwin Laiser wanted the exact opposite. He wanted to bring Dr. Mabuse back into the time where he came from and where he belonged, the Roaring Twenties. And to do that, Erwin Laiser needed his composer to be able to properly represent and recreate that past. The German composer Konrad Elfes also produced moderately successful records of historically informed Dixieland jazz, so he was already kind of attached to the music of the 20s too. After the movie Dr. Mabuse had been published with Konrad Elfes' score in 1964, for decades to come, Konrad Elfes would be the first man to go to whenever a feature film about the history of Berlin needed scoring. That's how well regarded the now forgotten Konrad Elfes score of Dr. Mabuse was back then. Elfes would continue to write the score for Funeral in Berlin, which was the second Harry Palmer movie in 1966 with Michael Caine, and for Rosa von Braunheim's movie Anita, Tänze des Lasters, 1987, which was about the dancer Anita Berber, who also appears shortly in Dr. Mabuse. I have fond memories of that film because Michael Honesso appears in it as a young dancer, and I used to write the funding applications for some of his later projects. 1969, Konrad Elfes wrote the very song he is best known for today, the title song of Pippi Longstocking, which until this day is even sung in the Bundestag occasionally. For his Dr. Mabuse score, Konrad Elfes emulated the sound of Berlin in the 20s, using at least 4 different genres or styles. First, there was atonal or free-tonal expressionism, inspired among others by the music of Arnold Schönberg and his pupils Alban Berg, Anton von Webern and Hanns Eisler, all of which at some time taught or composed or studied at Berlin too. Second, and most importantly, there was the sound of the popular music of the time, as represented by contemporary jazz or dances, mostly foxtrot, or the songs of Friedrich Holländer, Kurt Weill and again Hanns Eisler. Particularly Kurt Weill serves as a very recognizable role model. Third, there is neoclassicistic counterpoint, as can be found in the contemporary works of Ferruccio Busoni, again occasionally Kurt Weill, and I would say Paul Hindemith. Note that Paul Hindemith's music is also used by Claude Chabrol in his Dr. Mabuse homage, Dr. M from 1990. Hindemith's music provides for the very few interesting and fascinating moments of this otherwise train wreck of a movie. And last but not least, the music of the old world. The doomed world is represented in Konrad Elfes' score by the sound of the chamber music of Tchaikovsky or Brahms. All these different styles and genres kind of represent, each in its own way, the rich musical backdrop of Berlin in the 20s. Konrad Elfes did not actually quote any of these composers I mentioned, nor did he compile his score from their compositions. Instead, he emulated their style to create something new and completely his own. Now, if Konrad Elfes' Dr. Mabuse score is so damned good, why then was it not used by the Friedrich Wilhelm Murnau Stiftung to accompany their DVD version of the newly restored movie? Very simple, because it does not cover the whole runtime of the movie, and boy did I learn that the hard way. Now, first of all, the cut of Erwin Laiser, which Konrad Elfes scored, uses a different speed than was used in 1922. Let's do the math. If playing 3,496 meters of film in the original speed of 18 frames per second takes 155 minutes. That's slightly more than 2 hours and a half. Then playing the same length of film at 24 frames per second takes about 116 minutes. That's approximately 2 hours. Half an hour is already gone, just on account of the Erwin Laiser cut playing the film more quickly. However, my version of the Laiser cut is only 100 minutes long. That means at least 15 additional minutes have been cut and are missing, at least in my version of the Laiser cut. And this is a moderate estimate. The first act of the movie seems almost complete. I miss only Dr. Mabuse's lecture. I offer no music to this section because frankly I have no idea how Konrad Elfers would have accompanied it. The cuts in the final acts of the movie are more substantial and severe. There are minutes missing from the character von Wenck chasing Dr. Mabuse into the Hotel Excelsior. The scene of the séance in the mansion of the Count of Told has been cut slightly. The scenes of Mabuse having fallen in love with the Countess Told and walking through the empty rooms of his house have been cut severely. Those aren't even all frames that could not be accounted for in my version of the Laiser cut. Erwin Laiser is a fascinating subject on his own. He had a Jewish background, but his father had managed to get out of Germany in time. The son Erwin Laiser dedicated his entire career as a documentary filmmaker on educating his mostly German audience about the Third Reich and the roads leading towards it. Perhaps he even considered his Fritz Lang movie cuts, there were several others, as part of this effort. Say, his self-imposed mission to educate about what film critic Siegfried Kracauer called the road from Caligari to Hitler. Under those circumstances, it seems strange to me that Laiser would even make these kind of cuts. And even stranger is that Fritz Lang approved them, as he did officially. As for Fritz Lang, however, he was already used to people making their own cuts of his movies. Just think of the many incomplete versions of Metropolis. Perhaps even Erwin Laiser himself had to work with an incomplete version of the movie to begin with. But perhaps there was also a financial reason behind the cuts. After all, Erwin Laiser wanted his version to be shown in the theaters, and the theater managers wanted it to be worth their while financially. In 155 minutes, they could have shown almost 2 of Arthur Brauner's new Mabuse movies and would have doubled their sales of admission. Be that as it may, I ended up having 100 minutes of music for 155 minutes of film. I had to add almost 1 hour of music. I could only repeat the music I already had. I had to repeat, then recut, and repeat and recut, so every single piece of music would end up just a little longer to still fit the image. It took me almost 12 hours and several hundreds of cuts to do, and I may have ended up completely obscuring and corrupting the very musical structures which Konrad Elfers had originally tried to emulate. When Konrad Elfers emulates the sound of popular music of the 20s, he very deliberately uses regular ABA structures, as the pop music composers of the 20s would. His Pippi Longstocking song has a regular ABA structure too. There are a lot of those regular structures in his Mabuse score. I became baffled and awed at how he managed those fixed structures to fit perfectly to the length of any given scene. Yet I had to obscure, corrupt, destroy almost every single one of those structures to make them fit with the increased length of every scene. And while I was trying so hard to overcome and replace the perceived repetitiveness of the Alyosha Zimmerman score with something I considered would suit the movie better, I see now I may have ended up creating the most repetitive score ever. It was a complete vanity project. There will be no second part. I might add English subtitles at a later point as soon as I have worked out how to do it. But should YouTube decide to put it down for copyright reasons, I will not risk my channel by putting it up again. But if you like Konrad Elfer's music, please feel free to enjoy it while it is here. Feel free to enjoy it as much as I did, which is in the best possible way to enjoy film music, watching a movie.